we are back. Thanks for clicking on the link. Welcome to Good Energy. Enjoy the content, and everyone have a blessed day. Thanks for clicking on the channel. Welcome to Good Energy. Please like, subscribe, and comment below. Today we're going to be taking a look at the film King Richard. This is a biopic that focuses on the lives of Venus and Serena Williams, two of the greatest tennis players of all time, as well as their father, Richard Williams. The film is based in the 1980s and early 1990s in Compton, Los Angeles, and focuses on the upbringing and trials and tribulations of their lives as seen through their father's eyes, Richard Williams, and their very own Venus and Serena Williams. I would like to first start off by saying I felt this movie was A+. It was an amazing film, definitely one of the best movies I've seen this year and in a long time. I think Will Smith as an actor did a great job impersonating Richard Williams. I think Will Smith deserves the Oscar for this performance. And I would encourage everyone listening to this video and watching to please support this movie. Go out and see it. I think this is one of Will Smith's best films, one of his best acting jobs. And I do think that although the box office numbers are very low with only $5.5 million in opening week sales, I do feel this is a movie everyone needs to watch and go support. This is a very great film. Overall, as I said, I felt this movie was A+. It was a really great movie. It dealt with a lot of the things that Richard envisioned for his daughters. Richard Williams had a vision of his daughters being tennis stars before they were born. And a lot of people, in terms of manifesting their goals and their dreams, do not understand the power of visualization and the ability to write things down and speak things into existence. This movie does a great job incorporating the vision Richard Williams had for his children. And I think he did a very great job raising them, especially in a area like Compton, California, which it's an abhorrent place to live. It's tough, it's rough, there's a lot of gangs, there's a lot of violence. The school systems have been some of the underperforming school systems in the entire country. And just studying the history of Compton, you know it's a very high gang population. The incarceration rate for African Americans is very high. The drug addiction rate is very high. The poverty rate is well below average. And in terms of this area and community, it's a tough place to live, and many people do not make it out. A lot of people fall victim to being a statistic. In terms of Richard Williams, he had a vision for his daughters. He stuck with it, and he was able to overcome a lot of the things that go on in the area and prevent his daughters from falling victim to that. And he did a very good job raising his daughters. Now, the film itself shows the hard work and dedication that Richard demanded from his daughters. And I think that in terms of children, they did a very good job of listening to their father, supporting him, and believing in them. Richard started his daughters off playing tennis at 4 years old. He feels that was a little bit too early and probably wishes he would have started them off at maybe around 5 or 6, but nonetheless it worked. But some of the things he would do, he did not have a lot of money for supplies and equipment, so he would go to the different tennis venues and collect the balls that were thrown out or, mishandled, and he would collect them and save them, as well as the equipment like tennis rackets. And he gained enough supplies to where he could, start training his daughters himself. So he would bring them to the courts of Compton, which were very run down. The actual court had numerous breaks within the surface. The nets were very run down, but nonetheless, he managed to train his daughters and focus on different things like stance, serve, backhand, volleys, and all the different shots that go with, being a tennis player and perfecting your game. So he continued to do this. And in the meantime, Richard was a fan of tennis. In terms of himself, he got familiar with tennis by watching some of the purse and the prizes that they would win for enrolling and winning in some of these tennis tournaments. In particular, what caught his eye was a tennis player by the name of Virginia Rusi. And he saw her playing on television, and when she won a tournament, she won, I think it was something like $40,000. And he realized, well, I work literally around the clock, 60 hours a week, and I make $50,000 a year. This tennis player literally won one tournament and won $40,000, which is just about what I make in a full year of working around the clock. Well, I think I want to have some children and teach them to become a professional tennis player so they can become wealthy and, have success a lot easier than we've had it growing up in this area. And what he did was he created a 85-page plan on how he could essentially raise his daughters to become tennis professional stars. And this is where having good energy, believing in yourself, manifesting your goals and your dreams and manifestations. And that's exactly what he did. He spoke it into existence. So as the film takes a look at their early life, it shows some of the issues that he faced just getting his daughters into these positions. So living in Compton, California, a very, very tough place to live, it shows just taking his daughters to the tennis court, some of the issues that they had to deal with. The different gangs would come up to the court and they would, they would fight him. They would pick on him and beat him up. And, they were younger gangs. He was, of course, an older man. At this point in time, the film largely takes a look at the early 90s, like 1990. Richard now is, he's about 82 years old, something like that. So at this time in his life, he was, I'd say probably about maybe 50 years old. So dealing with the younger gangs and younger men, he couldn't fight these guys off, so they would beat him up all the time. So that was one sad aspect of the movie. But nonetheless, he would continue to train his daughters at the courts, and there was even issues with their oldest daughter who passed away, rest in peace, who was sadly fatally shot in Compton, California. In 2003, Yatane Price, the older sister of Venus and Serena Williams, and the oldest of 5 total sisters, was fatally shot in 2003 in Compton, California, while sitting in the vehicle with her then boyfriend. They were discussing or conversing inside a SUV when essentially a bunch of gang members fired shots into the vehicle, thinking that they were rivals or something along the lines of that nature. She was struck in the head with a bullet and she did not survive. September 4th, September 14th, 2003, she passed away. She was the elder of Venus by 7 years. She would be 49 years old today. Very tragic story. Serena said when she watched the movie, every scene that featured her older sister just brought her to tears. And watching the movie, it just seems like the oldest sister was just a key element into their success as well. She was just a key element to the family. She brought a lot of organization and happiness to the daughters, organized the talent shows in the house that kept them, just lively young women. Very sad nonetheless. A lot of people wonder why was she still in Compton, California. The reports have it, although her sisters helped her out financially, she decided she wanted to do for herself, and she lived in what was reported as a very poor house, rundown house in the neighborhood community of Compton, while her sisters had $1 million multi-mansions. She chose to stay local and work for everything she had. She was a business owner, however, and a college graduate, and she was a straight A student as it pictured in the movie. But nonetheless, that was one of the very tragic parts of the movie. Very sad. And the movie had many other sad parts. One night, Richard went to the tennis courts alone while his family was out eating dinner. He left the dinner and he just had some ideas that he envisioned that he wanted to kind of play out on the tennis court. So he went to the tennis courts alone in Compton, and one of the local gangs pulled up to the tennis court and they proceeded to beat Richard very, very badly. They beat him up very badly. And what Richard did was he went to his van to get his pistol, and he went to go look for these guys so he could shoot them. And essentially he found the guys hanging around at a corner. It looked like some type of convenience store. So Richard crossed the street to approach this guy. It looked like he was about to shoot him. And as he was walking across the street to do this, a rival gang drove by and shot the guy dead. And very, very sad. Richard, it seemed like he was about to do it, and this was fate, this was God, saying, hey, I have a different plan for you. And that's how energy works. This guy, this gang member, this high-ranking gang member spent his life terrorizing people, doing wrong, doing evil things, and he met his fate before Richard could deliver it to him. And this was not Richard's fate to do that. He had a greater plan. I mean, just think, if literally he was 2 seconds away from throwing his life away, his daughters probably would have never made it. But nonetheless, that was another sad part in the movie. And there were several more. But as we kind of switch gears back to, the hard work and the late practices these two women had, Richard had some neighbors that were, they felt as though Richard was abusing the Venus and Serena by making them practice so hard and practice so late. So one of the neighbors called over a child protective worker to kind of investigate the family. And this was a very sad scene in the movie. The workers came over, investigating claims of abuse, and Richard, he broke down and started crying, and he's like, look, my children get all A's, they're all straight A students, they work hard, and would you rather than be out on the corner like some of these other young women, selling themselves, doing crime, being a part of these gangs, getting locked up, turning up missing? He said, "My job as a parent is to raise these children, instill discipline in them so they can be successful." And you can see in the social worker's face that she knew that, and he expressed, "Look, I have 2 future tennis stars." And you could see the social worker felt, sad and disgust. And, their neighbor that called Child Protective Services on them, her own daughter was a prostitute in the streets. So that was another sad part of the movie. But nonetheless, the movie itself, it did really take a look at all the things that Richard did to get his daughters through, to get their foot in the door. And one thing he did early on, he would record these videos of them practicing in Compton and send them to different tennis coaches. So the thing with Richard is he needed a established tennis coach. The game of tennis is very expensive to play and keep up with. A lot of people don't realize, but most professional tennis players barely make ends meet. Although, especially women's tennis is one of the most highest paying female sports there is. Actually, I'm sorry, women's tennis is the highest paying female sport there is. But a lot of female professionals barely make ends meet, and a lot of them are not profitable unless you can get a huge sponsor, or when you're going to have to at least win a major or consistently win tournaments. And just the fact of winning will produce sponsors. But most women are not successful on tour, and they barely make ends meet if they do not come from a wealthy family. To get 2 young women into the sport, living in poverty, being poor, was very difficult. So he had to create these videos and train his daughters and make sure they were pretty consistent. And these videos he would send to different coaches and, different tennis personalities, and they all would reject him repeatedly. But one time he did have success. Pete Sampras, his original coach, this is what Richard did, and this was pretty amazing. So he went to the country club where Paul Cohen, who was Pete Sampras' coach, Pete Sampras was practicing with John McEnroe, and essentially Richard Williams, he went to the country club and he literally harassed Paul Cohen into just taking a moment to watch his daughter essentially perform these drills. So of course Paul Cohen literally was like, I'm busy, I don't have time, how'd you get here? And Richard, he kind of gestures at Pete Sampras. He's like, well, you're breaking. John went for a bathroom break as well. You can I have 2 minutes of your time to just show him what my daughter can do? Pete Sampras said, sure, yeah, why not? And then essentially Venus came over, and as well as he started with Venus, but Serena was there as well. And essentially he did quite a number of drills with Venus, and he was like, wow, she's pretty good. And he essentially agreed to coach her. Venus would then go on to have an undefeated amateur career, 63 wins and 0 losses, with the help of Paul Cohen. Paul Cohen was a very big factor in Venus's early career, and it's kind of sad how their relationship ended, but Paul essentially brought in some sponsors to help take Venus to the next level in terms of being an amateur, and getting her into some of these well-named junior tournaments. Richard, however, declined, and this is where things kind of took the next level, I guess you can say, for the better, essentially. But they declined, and Paul brought in the sponsors, different sponsors from these major brands, and Richard didn't want to have his daughter sign and be under these long contracts. So essentially, then Richard drew up his own contract, and then he went and he started looking for a coach. You know, he needed a coach that can help take them to the next level. As we knew, you know, it's very expensive to play tennis. Very, very expensive. It takes a lot of money, and this is where Rick Macy came into play. Rick Macy was he was a Boca Raton tennis coach in Florida, and he's one of the best out there. And he had his own facility, and this is where he would be a lifeline to Venus, Serena, and Richard Williams. So essentially, again, Richard kind of coerced his way into a meeting with Rick Macy, and Rick, again, he liked what he saw. He's like, wow, he said, I'll be honest with you, I think you have the next Michael Jordan on your hand, meaning Venus Williams. And Richard Williams said, I have the next two Michael Jordans on my hands, Venus and Serena Williams. And so Rick drew up a contract. He's like, look, I'll help you out. I can help take you to the next level. At this moment, he had Jennifer Capriati on his team, and he told Richard, look, I think Venus is twice as good as Jennifer. Unbelievable statement. Nonetheless, Richard drew up his own agreement and said, look, I do want your help into taking us to the next level, but there's some things I need. I need a house. I need a camper. And I need you to help take care of our finances. Because, I won't be able to work. Rick Macy agreed. He bought him a house in Florida. He bought him a camper. They drove down to Florida. And then now they were essentially, with the exception of going to school, they were his full-time students at his own facility that he owned, where he could practice on their game 4 to 5 hours a day, 6 days a week. And this essentially helped get them to the next level. Now, Venus was 63-0 as a junior, but she didn't play any juniors from 1991 to 1994. And this is where she just spent time practicing. But this is where Richard got a lot of heat because, people in the tennis world knew about Venus as the next big thing. But, from the ages of 11 to 14, she didn't play any juniors matches. So they're like, hey, what's going on with this young girl? When is she going to go pro? She had a buzz already. And especially working with Rick Macy, people knew about the Williams sisters. And this is where things got interesting. There was a tournament in Oakland, California. And, Oakland, probably about 4 or 5 hour drive from where they're from. But this is a big tournament here. You got the former U.S. Or current U.S. Open reigning champion, #1 player in the world enrolled in this tournament. We want to see if we can get Venus in this tournament. Richard, again, didn't want his daughter to enroll in this tournament. He wanted to just bring her along maybe another year or two and just have her turn pro. Rick Macy said, look, let's have her turn professional right now. This is the time. He literally pleaded with Richard, begged him, Venus begged him, and they agreed. And this is where big-time sponsors came in, offering Venus $1 million contracts on the table before she even played one match. And this is where we got a national ESPN spotlight of Venus Williams in her first match. And this would be amazing. And some of you may remember this. Me personally, I don't remember this happening in the world, but nonetheless, I was more of a basketball player and fan at this time, being a kid. But I don't remember any of this happening in the world. But nonetheless, it was history. It was a major event for sports and especially tennis fans all around the world. The day was October 31st, 1994. Venus Williams, her first pro match was in the Oakland Classic. And that essentially put her against 59th ranked Shawn Stafford in the first round, where she completely demolished her in straight sets. And Venus Williams essentially had numerous sponsors offering her $1 million of sponsorships and sneaker deals and beverage deals, and she was essentially crowned the next big thing even before she played that match in Oakland. Now this led her to the second round, and this was really big news, much like Coco Gauff in the headlines she was getting a couple years ago, just doing what she did at Wimbledon, being only 15 years old. But Venus here was 14 years old in her debut, and this was insane here. In the next round, she would face then world's rank number one, essentially between number one and number two, Andrea Sanchez, who in the movie they claim she was ranked number one. But a lot of the reports and articles I read have her at rank number two in the world. But I think it's fair to say former number one, Arantxa Sanchez, and Venus was leading that match. She won the first set 6-3. She was leading the second set 3-1, and it appeared, especially from watching the movie, I don't remember this in real life. Again, I was probably following basketball at this time. I wasn't really watching. ESPN was around, but wasn't really that big. I recall it being popular, but I don't recall this story with Venus Williams being aired on ESPN, although the movie shows it being aired on ESPN. And Sanchez did something. She did an old veteran tactic. When she was down 3-1 in the second set, she took a bathroom break, and the bathroom break ended up being something like 9 or 10 minutes. And the movie shows Venus just not knowing what to do, not being prepared for this, and her parents are essentially telling her, stay calm, relax, try to stay loose. And you could see the inexperience on Venus. She didn't know what to do. She looked very nervous. She's staring at the crowd. Sanchez comes back, and essentially this is a veteran's tactic. It's called icing. Just like in football, where a kicker's about to kick a game-winning kick and they call a timeout right before the ball is snapped, or in basketball or baseball, where they like to ice the hitters. So it's a tactic that's used a lot in tennis. Actually, a lot of ladies will call for the physio, faking an injury. Victoria Azarenka was famous for this early on in her career. She was very hated for things like this. There was a match between Pavlyuchenkova and Sloane Stephens that was very heated. If you have a chance to take a look at that match, where they almost literally came to blows. Sloane Stephens is nothing to play with, by the way, but nonetheless, Sanchez iced Venus, and did that work. She came back and essentially won every game after that. She ended up winning the match, and but this is where the movie essentially ends. After that match, Venus cried, she was sad, but Richard, who did not watch the match from the stands, he watched it from the from the tunnel entrance walkway, and when Venus was on the verge of losing the match, Richard Williams came out into the stands to give her the support and let her know, look, you did your best. Don't hold your head down. You're only 14 years old, and you literally went 3 sets with the world's former number ranked person who had just won the US Open and a multiple major champion. And when she walked out of the arena, a star was born. There was literally hundreds of kids outside begging for autographs from Venus. And the irony is Serena was there too, and Venus is like, hey, this is my sister, she's gonna be big too, and they're like, hey, let me get your autograph also. So a star was born essentially during that scene. And really good movie. That's essentially where the movie ended, but it much reminded me of Emma Raducanu and the fame and success she's been having lately, where since winning the US Open, now she comes out to practice and there's tons of, fans lined up wanting autographs and stuff. And that's essentially what I thought of when I saw Venus coming out, and she couldn't believe it. And although she lost the match and was sad, just having all those fans out there wanting to know who she is and can they get an autograph really picked her up. And although it was kind of a sad movie, the parts of the movie that were sad were really sad, but the parts that were happy really uplifted you. And I think coming from a suspenseful match, because I personally don't remember this match, so I didn't know, watching the movie, I didn't know if Venus would end up winning the match even after being iced. It surely looked like she was going to win the match before Sanchez iced her, and then seeing her performance after being iced, it's like, okay, yeah, she's probably not going to win this match. So the movie hit kind of a down point with sadness, and then when she came out to see all the fans immediately picked you back up, with a roller coaster ride of emotions. And it was like, yes, this is a great movie, and it's a great way to end the movie. And then they would go on to kind of talk about some of Venus Williams and her accomplishments. And the reality here is, I tell people all the time, Venus Williams, if she didn't have to compete against her sister Serena Williams, she would have so many more titles and majors. It would be unbelievable. But the movie primarily was based about Venus Williams because she was essentially the first one, the oldest of Venus and Serena, of course, but she was essentially the first one to make it big. And she was being a couple years older than Serena at the time, having a little bit more experience than Serena. She was the one that Richard picked to take off, and rightfully so. But Venus Williams in her career has made over $42 million in prize money. That's second all time, next to her sister Serena. Right? Unbelievable movie here. And the reality here is, they fought a lot for women's tennis. I mean, Billie Jean King has done a lot herself. All of the pioneers before have done a lot for women's tennis. But I think what stands out amongst the most, besides those early tournaments where they had to fight and they only got paid $1 per match, was Venus and Serena protesting the major slams. Wimbledon in particular. Look, why aren't you paying us the same amount of money as men? Are we not as good as men? And I think that's made a huge staple on women's tennis. Female tennis players are the highest paid athletes in the world right now. So I'm a supporter of women and equal rights and rights for everyone, no matter if you're man, woman, what color, race, creed you are. People deserve to be treated equally and fair, and that's a right that you have. That's a God-given right, and the Williams sisters have done a lot for women's tennis. Venus in particular, 815 wins. She wins 75.5% of her matches. 815 wins, 264 losses, and a lot of those losses have piled up over the last few years. So let's not, forget how dominant Venus Williams was. 49 titles. Former number one, of course, we know that. Former number one in doubles, we know that. But yeah, she's won the Australian Open 2 times, in 2003 and 2017. She's won the French Open once in 2002. She's won Wimbledon 2000, 2001, 2005, 2007, 2008. She's won Wimbledon back-to-back on 2 occasions. The US Open she won back-to-back, 2000 and 2001. She won Wimbledon and the US Open twice in the same year, 2000 and 2001. She was dominating the sport. She's won the Grand Slam Cup 1998. The Tour Finals, she has a Tour Finals under her belt. We just saw Garbine Muguruza defeat Annette Kontaveit, winning this year's 2021 World tour finals, but Venus won it in 2008. Serena is also a 5-time tour finals winner. And I mean, Venus Williams is the most decorated Olympic athlete in the world, male or female. But if we look at her Grand Slam double results, she won the Australian Open in 2001, 2003, 2009, 2010. She won the French Open 1999, 2010, winning a lot of these, most of these with her sister. Unbelievable. She won Wimbledon 2000, 2002, 2008, 2009, 2012, 2016. She won the US Open with Serena 1999 and 2009. Unbelievable. In mixed doubles, she has a career finals record 28-8. Unbelievable. 2 titles, Grand Slam mixed doubles results. Australian Open 1998, French Open 98, Wimbledon 2006, US Open 1998. Unbelievable. She has 4 gold medals under her belt and 1 singles medal under her belt. 5 medals is the most amongst any Olympic athlete in the sport of tennis, male or female. So I mean, in terms of Venus, she is a pioneer. Her playing style gave many opponents difficulty because in terms of Venus, she wasn't really a drop shot player, but she was large, being 6'1", large and thin, very athletic, much like a Victoria Azarenka in my opinion. But I don't want to compare her to Victoria Azarenka when, of course, Venus is the much more accomplished tennis player. But in terms of today's players, very comparable. And then if you want to take it a little further, in terms of Venus, her style, she had a very dominant backhand, very dominant forehand. And the thing about Venus, she clocked in the highest serve ever by a woman on tour. And a lot of what she did was she could serve essentially a slice. She could serve a very powerful slice down the line where it's like it was almost impossible to return. And you don't see that in today's tennis. That's something that Richard worked with her, and it's just very, very unique to her game, and that's what made her very difficult to play against. You look at the Ashley Bartys of today's game, and you see them when they want to redirect or change pace, they'll hit a slice. The Ons Jabours of the world, they'll hit a slice at you and then force you to change your game. Venus Williams would start the game with the slice serve at 118, 120, 125, 128 miles per hour. What are you going to do with that? So Venus Williams, definitely a pioneer in the game. Like I said, dominant backhand, dominant forehand, dominant serve. And you look at her game today, and even still today, you notice that she still has that powerful forehand and backhand. Now, after the injuries, her knees and her movement, her vertical movement is very bad. Her horizontal movement is still pretty decent. She still can hang with a lot of the, especially older tennis players. The younger tennis players that mix up the drop shots and bring her forward to the net, she struggles against those players. But any of the players that just want to play tennis and hit, any of the more powerful tennis players, she can still hang with those because Venus still has her power. I mean, power is one of the last things to leave any professional athlete, whether it's boxing or baseball. You look at Barry Bonds, all those years, still being walked, in his 40s, still hitting home runs, dramatically in his 40s. So power is one of the last things that leave athletes, and Venus Williams in particular, she still has her power. It's just her movement that hinders her. I think the movie came out at the right time because my, being a tennis expert, my thoughts are, unless she gets a wild card, I think Venus Williams, and I'm very sad to say this, but the reality is I think her career is just about over. I don't see her winning many matches going forward, because now, I mean, she's ranked, I think her rankings dropped to, she's ranked very low now, or high, depending how you want to look at it. She's ranked in the 200s, 300s, or something like that. I'll have to double check, but her ranking is very, very low. It's the lowest of her career. The sad part about that is I don't think she's going to be able to win many matches to improve her ranking. So coming forward in these major slams, unless they give her a wild card, which I think she deserves, she's still a big draw. She's still the biggest name in the sport, or I mean rather one of the biggest names in the sport, but still a big draw. I mean, you look at her matches of this year and even last year, she still can gather a large crowd at center court for a main event, you know, in any tournament she plays in, wherever she travels. But again, the sad part is I think her career, the movie definitely came out at the right time, because her career is just about over. And it's, you know, it's sad, but it's also a celebration of all of her accomplishments and achievements, and all the things she's done for the sport. I mean, you can't play forever. You know, you can't play forever. Father Time catches up with you no matter who you are. We've seen all the greats have to step away from the game. You know, Michael Jordan, I recall Michael Jordan retiring the first time after the win against Utah. And a lot of that Michael Jordan first retirement, or actually second retirement, because he retired previously when he went to play baseball after the issue with his father, which was a tragic situation. But, you know, the second time he retired, after that championship in 1998, that was really sad, because a lot of that had to do with money and the GM, wanting to move into a different direction. You know, that GM, I forget his name, was it Cross, or I forget his name, but that GM for the Bulls was just horrible. He let Michael Jordan walk, and he ruined that team. That team could have came back and won another championship. I mean, Jordan was, you know, you could say he had two different primes of his career, but the reality is he was still in great shape, still dominating the league in 1998. He was forced to retire. I mean, Jordan wanted to come back. I mean, it's just the GM could have brought everyone back and had that team win another championship. Jordan could have easily had 7 championships, but nonetheless he retired, and then the Spurs would go on to beat the Knicks in that lockout season, which was that was a nightmare. But look at Kobe Bryant. You know, him walking away was very sad. You know, but he had to injury. You look at all the greats. You know, you look at Drew Brees last year retiring. That was sad. You know, all the greats over the years. Barry Bonds, Derek Jeter. You know. So I mean, you can't play forever. You know, you do have to retire eventually. And we're watching Venus. We're watching the end here. It's unfolding in front of our eyes. But I think this movie came out at the right time. And then if we take a look at her sister, Serena Williams, who is the most wealthiest athlete in terms of tennis winnings of all times. And the reality here is unbelievable. 23 Grand Slam titles. Now, I always say Venus would have had more Grand Slam titles if she wasn't competing with her sister all those years. But if we take a look at Serena Williams, $94 million in prize money. That's first in all-time rankings for prize money. 855 wins. Both of these ladies combined for over 1,600 wins. Only 152 losses. 84.9% win rate. She wins 85% of her matches. Unbelievable. In this movie, King Richard, early on when Richard Williams was looking for a coach for the girls, he was doing different things. He was creating videos, training videos, sending the men to different coaches, trying to get a coach to be on board with them. He essentially did get Rick Macy on board, and Rick Macy said, I think you have the next Michael Jordan on your hands. And Richard Williams said, I have the next 2 Michael Jordans on my hands. Now, Serena had to live in Venus's shadow early on, but Serena was patient. And Richard told Serena, because the movie essentially was about Venus, because Venus was the first to take off in that family in terms of tennis. But Richard told Serena, he said, don't you worry. Just continue to practice, get better, listen to me and your coaches, and I guarantee you, you will be the best player of all time. Now, he said this to Serena, and he knew it. And what was great in the movie is the high quality coaching that Venus would get early on in the movie. Richard and his wife would record that and then do those same drills with Serena on the courts in Compton. So essentially, Serena got the same training for free early on. So definitely, I take my hats off to Richard Williams. He was a great mentor, great coach for the girls, and it worked. I mean, you look at Serena Williams. She's age 40, and like I said, $94 million in prize money, 85% win rate, 73 career titles, unbelievable. Of course, former number 1 ranked in the world, but Serena's ranked number 41 currently, which they've definitely been generous with the rankings in terms of Serena. So they definitely, Serena is known as the greatest tennis player of all time, and the reality here is they've been very generous with her ranking. But let's take a look at some of the Grand Slam singles results. Winning the Australian Open in 2003, 2005, 2007, 2009, 2010, 2015, 2017. She won the French Open in 2002, 2013, 2015. She won Wimbledon 2002, 2003, 2009, 2010, 2012, 2015, 2016. She won Wimbledon back-to-back on 2 different occasions. Unbelievable. Winning the Australian Open back-to-back 2009, 2010. The US Open 1999, 2002, 2008, 2012, 2013, 2014. Winning the US Open 3 times in a row. Now, she lost the US Open several times as well. I think after having the birth of her child, that really affected her game. She would have broke this record. I mean, let's be honest. She'd have at least 25, 26 majors by now. But the tour finals, 5-time tour winner. You thought Michael Jordan was the greatest with 6 championships. Serena's won the tour finals 5 different occasions. All right, she won the Olympic Games in 2012. She won the Grand Slam Cup in 1998, still being pretty young. I mean, it's just the accomplishments. Grand Slam double results, having won 12 Grand Slam double championships. All right, the U.S. Open, winning that in 1999 and 2009. I mean, tons of titles with her sister by herself. 4-time gold medalist winner as well. Serena Williams. And this, a lot of people need to hear this. This is very good stuff here. Chris Evert was asked, this was during the WTA finals with Garbina Muguruza and Anett Kontaveit. Chris Evert was asked, who is the best tennis player of all time? In particular, who is the best female tennis player of all time? And she said, well, myself. She said, of course, myself, right? But she said, I think there's 2 layers to that question. I think who is the best female tennis player of all time / who is the best tennis player of all time, and who is the most accomplished tennis player of all time, the most decorated. She said, first of all, I think the best tennis player of all time, because you have to take a look at the decades and the different eras of the game, and right now the players are the best and strongest and biggest and most athletic they've ever been. So of course right now is the most difficult time to play tennis and compete with so many great players. She said, I think the greatest of all time, without a doubt, is Serena Williams. Male or female, the greatest of all time is Serena Williams. Now, coming from Chris Evert, this is great words. Taking a look, Chris Evert, her career is simply amazing. Serena has 800 and something, 75 wins or something like that. Chris Evert has 1,309 wins, 157 titles. She was literally winning like 16 titles a year on average. But 18 slams. She has 18 slam titles. Serena has 23. So Serena has her beat on slams, and it's all about the slams. Back then, Everett did reach 34 slam finals, winning 18 of them, and that's more than any other player in the history of professional tennis, male or female. 34 slam finals appearance, simply amazing. And Everett, she stated, I was wondering what the tour was doing, because she finally got, her due, having a trophy named after her. She essentially said, I was wondering what the tour was doing here. They weren't, it seemed like they weren't honoring me with anything. Everything was about Billie Jean King. She's like, I didn't know what was going on here for a minute. And Billie Jean King, another great career, 39 slam titles, but only 12 in singles. And I don't mean to say only, but 12 in singles, 16 in women doubles, and 11 in mixed doubles. But yeah, Billie Jean King, another great career. Billie Jean King, 695 wins, 155 losses. Career titles, though, 129, but 67 during the Open era. And that's what Chris Evert mentioned was very important. The Open era, much more organized, much more tough to compete in. The draws, much more competitive. Previous to the Open era, not as many women in the tournaments. The superior athletes dominated and won a lot of the tournaments. But in terms of Chris Evert, Serena Williams is the greatest tennis player of all times, hands down. It's not even a discussion, not even a discussion. 855 wins in the Open era, amazing. $94 million, 23 Grand Slam titles. And again, going back to the movie King Richard here, Richard said, Serena, you will be the greatest of all time. And a lot of times, especially when you have siblings that can watch the older children in the family and kind of learn from their mistakes and watch and correct things and master their craft. And that's really what Serena did. When one of the scenes in the movie was pretty darn funny. Venus, actually, this was before Richard pulled her out of juniors competition. Serena would go along and watch Venus compete in the juniors, and Venus was 63-0 in juniors before Richard pulled her out. Serena would go in and register on the other courts so she could play while Venus was playing. It was so funny. And then Richard walked over to one of the courts Serena was at, and then a fan walked by that had one of his daughters competing in the tournament and said, "Oh my goodness, I didn't know you had two. That's double trouble." Meaning he didn't know he had two girls. He thought Venus was the best. And he's like, wow, now you got two Michael Jordans? Unbelievable. So that was kind of a funny part in the movie. But yeah, Serena would watch her bigger sister and learn from her mistakes and learn from her, from her great talents and perfect her own skills and talents into the best. And just being in terms of physical appearance, Venus, of course, a few inches taller than Serena. Serena being more shorter and compact, more powerful, more explosive. You kind of saw it coming even early on. Now, I can recall the Williams sisters early on in their career when they turned professional. They were a big deal. You start to see them on ESPN more. as the top headline stories, and the later half of the 1990s. And then this was around the era where Tiger Woods was taking off, and a lot of the sports outside of basketball, football, and baseball, where these young athletes started to dominate. It really started to make good for news and entertainment. And the Williams sisters in particular in the 90s, they were something to watch, I tell you. And once you hit the 2000s, they were a household staple in terms of tennis. They were very good, they were very dominant, and they were just winning matches all the time. And this movie here, King Richard, I encourage everyone to go watch it and support it. This is a really great movie. Very disappointed at the box office numbers. King Richard only did 5.5 million the opening weekend, $5.5 million the opening weekend, which I thought was very, very low. Let me take a quick look at what the box office numbers were for this previous weekend. Let's see here. All right, so box office numbers for King Richard. All right, so right now it's at 16.5 million. So it's doing about $1 million a day since opening, which I think we need to really support this movie. It's a good movie. It's a good biopic, and it's a movie that tennis fans need to see, and parents need to see, and young athletes need to see. It has a good message behind it. Hard work, dedication, anything's possible. Hard work works. Mayweather says that saying a lot. Hard work works. You have to perfect your craft. You have to just focus and manifest the things you want in this life. A lot of people are just living life and they are down and depressed, and they're waiting for someone to come save them. And that's not how life works. We have free will. We live in a great country, and we need to start getting up and doing the things that help make us successful and work towards a goal. Set goals. A lot of people nowadays don't have goals, and they wonder why things aren't going their way. You have to plan and set goals and persevere and endure losses and come back. And you fall 8 times, get up 9. And this movie is an inspiration to that. Richard Williams had to endure so many things in Compton, California. Just taking his girls to play tennis, getting beat up by young gang members, trying to have a tennis match with your family. The movie has a lot of sad things in it, sad moments. As I stated earlier, King Richard got beat up by one of the gang members, and he went and got his gun and went to go get the guy. As he was walking across the street to shoot the guy succumbed to his own fate of a drive-by shooting seconds before Richard could get there. So, yes, if you work hard, your fate will be determined with success. So continue to work hard. This is a great movie. Unfortunately, like I said, Venus Williams, her career is winding down, but we have to celebrate the great career that she's had. She will go down as one of the top female players of all time. Is she top 5? That's a good discussion. We all know Serena's number 1. Is Venus top 5 of all female players? I mean, who we have there? I think you have to put her probably, if not 4, at 5. Probably, if not 4, at maybe even 3. Everett's in there, Billie Jean King's in there. Nonetheless, it's a tough list to compile. We know Serena Williams is number 1, but there's been a lot of great female tennis players. Steffi Graf, Martina Navratilova, Margaret Court, Monica Seles, Billie Jean King, but Chris Everett. But I think Venus is definitely top 5. I would definitely have Venus top 5, if not maybe 4. I'd probably put Serena Williams number 1. I'd probably put Steffi Graf number 2 for sure. I'd probably put Chris Everett 3, then maybe Venus 4, and then Martina Navratilova 5. I don't know, because it's not just titles, it's earnings, it's impact, it's the open court era. It's a tough list. Who you guys have? Who's your top 5 female players of all time? Let me know. Drop it down there. I mean, Martina Hingis is comparable to what Venus has won in terms of majors, but Venus has won the doubles. She's won the golds. The most decorated gold player of all time in terms of Olympic medals. You can't forget that. It's not just about singles and slams. I got Venus number 4 of all time, female players. I think Richard did a good job raising 2 girls to be top 5 of all time. Serena's number 1 without a doubt. But nonetheless, King Richard, disappointed at the box office numbers. Please, guys, go support it. If you can't make it to the movie theaters, download the HBO app. You can watch it through there, sync it up, to your HD 4K TV, watch it on the screen through your mobile app connected to the TV. But nonetheless, King Richard, great movie. Please go see it. Serena, Venus Williams, Richard Williams, great family movie, full of suspense. This has been Good Energy. Thank you for listening.